We're live from New Delhi. You're watching the India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Coming up in the next hour. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi attends Quad Summit, highlights its importance as a force for global good. 9 new joint initiatives announced. Prime Minister Modi holds talk with US President Joe Biden, says their comprehensive global strategic partnership is driven by convergence of interest. In Sri Lanka, counting of votes underway for the presidential polls. NPP's Anurag Kumara Dissanayake leads in postal ballots. Kamala Harris invites Donald Trump for another debate. Trump declines, says too late. And in cricket, Bangladesh falters in a mammoth 515-run chase. India in complete control of the Chepauk test. Well, on to the details. Quad leaders appreciated Prime Minister Modi and India for its leadership role in the Indian Ocean. Japanese PM Kishida appreciated PM Modi and extended support to his initiative for organizing Voice of Global South summits. Australian PM Albanese said that India is the predominant power in the Indian Ocean under PM Modi. President Biden said that the US has things to learn from India's experience and leadership in the Indian Ocean, while Indian PM Narendra Modi highlighted Indo-Pacific inclusivity and prosperity as a shared priority at the Quad Summit.
The Quad has become a pivotal force in shaping shifting geopolitical dynamics. Amid global tensions and conflicts, the alliance comprising India, the US, Japan and Australia convened in Wilmington, Delaware. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi highlighted the Indo-Pacific inclusivity and prosperity as a shared priority, with a clear message that the cooperation of the nations is important for humanity, given the current world order. He also thanked President Biden for expanding cooperation across critical areas like health, technology and climate change.
Free, open, inclusive और प्रॉस्परस इंडो पैसिफिक हमारी साझा प्राथमिकता और साझा प्रतिबद्धता है। हमने मिलकर हेल्थ सिक्योरिटी, क्रिटिकल एंड इमर्जिंग टेक्नोलॉजीज, क्लाइमेट चेंज, कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग जैसे क्षेत्रों में कई सकारात्मक और समावेशी इनिशिएटिव लिए हैं।
PM Modi also asserted that the Quad was not against anyone and it supported rules-based international order.
हमारी बैठक ऐसे समय हो रही है जब विश्व तनावों और संघर्षों से घिरा हुआ है। ऐसे में साझा डेमोक्रेटिक वैल्यूज के आधार पर क्वाड का मिलकर साथ चलना पूरी मानवता के लिए बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण है। हम किसी के खिलाफ नहीं हैं। हम सभी एक रूल्स बेस्ड इंटरनेशनल ऑर्डर, संप्रभुता और क्षेत्रीय अखंडता के सम्मान और सभी मसलों के शांतिपूर्ण ढंग से हल निकालने का समर्थन करते हैं।
US President Joe Biden echoed this sentiment, affirming that the Quad is more aligned than ever, announcing new initiatives.
Today, we're announcing a series of initiatives to deliver real, positive impact for the Indo-Pacific that includes providing new maritime technologies to our regional partners so they know what's happening in their waters, launching cooperation between Coast Guards for the first time, and expanding the Quad Fellowship to include students from Southeast Asia.
Japanese PM and his Australian counterpart further stressed on the need of an institution like Quad that plays a crucial role in strengthening security and peace in the region. They called Quad to work together for a more secure and open international order.
It is ever more important for us, the Quad, who share values such as freedom and democracy, to continue to demonstrate our firm commitment to our common vision of FOIP, the free and open Indo-Pacific, to the international community.
Partnerships like the Quad are crucial, providing us with an avenue to discuss shared responsibilities and goals and strengthening the enduring relationships necessary for lasting stability.
In an ever-evolving world, the Quad's commitment to a free, open and inclusive Indo-Pacific is crucial for the future of global stability and cooperation. With Amritpal Singh in the United States, Bureau Report, DD India.
And a recap of what all happened today at the Quad Summit for viewers who have just joined us. On the sidelines of Quad meet, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, along with US President Joe Biden, Australian PM Anthony Albanese and Japanese PM Fumio Kishida attended the Cancer Moonshot event. Quadrilateral Cancer Moonshot initiative was launched by Quad leaders to prevent, detect, treat and alleviate the impact of cervical cancer. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi announced a special fund to fight against the cervical cancer. PM Modi said Quad has decided to jointly tackle challenges of cervical cancer.
ये affordable, accessible और क्वालिटी हेल्थ केयर के लिए हमारे साझे दृढ़ निश्चय को दर्शाता है। एक्सेलेंसी, भारत अपना एक्सपीरियंस और एक्सपर्टाइज शेयर करने के लिए तैयार है। आज कैंसर केयर में काम करने वाले भारत के कई एक्सपर्ट्स इस इवेंट्स में हमारे साथ जुड़े हैं। भारत का विजन है वन अर्थ वन हेल्थ। इसी भावना से मैं क्वाड मूनशॉट इनिशिएटिव के तहत $7.5 मिलियन के सैपलिंग किट्स, डिटेक्शन किट्स और वैक्सीन का सहयोग देने की घोषणा करता हूं।
Well, Prime Minister further said that India will also cooperate in radiotherapy treatment and capacity building and announced another fund for vaccine doses in the Indo-Pacific region.
खुशी है कि इंडो पैसिफिक देशों के लिए गावी और क्वाड की पहलों के अंतर्गत भारत से 40 मिलियन वैक्सीन डोसेज का योगदान दिया जाएगा। ये 40 मिलियन वैक्सीन डोसेज करोड़ों लोगों के जीवन में आशा की किरणें बनेगी। As you can see, when the Quad acts, it is not just for nations, it is for the people. This is the true essence of our human-centric approach. Dhanyavad.
Well, a major announcement was made in Delaware on the sidelines of the summit. Addressing the event, US President Joe Biden said that over $150 million for HPV screening and therapeutics will be initiated. He added that Quad Cancer Moonshot means more collaboration between hospitals, research centers and cancer foundations.
Cancer Moonshot means more collaboration between our hospitals, research centers and cancer foundations. More investment in screenings, treatment, and research, and more exchanges between our countries to improve vaccination rates all across the region. Right now, only 1 in 10 women across the Indo-Pacific, which is the most populated part of the world, have received HPV vaccinations for cervical cancer. So I'm proud to announce that our 4 countries, the leaders behind me, and many organizations here today are committing over $150 million for HPV screening and therapeutics. And next year, doctors and nurses from the U.S. Navy will begin a program to train Indo-Pacific counterparts in conducting cervical cancer screening and vaccination so we can reach every woman in the region.
And Japanese Prime Minister said that his country has offered support for deployment of equipment and technical assistance in the Indo-Pacific region.
Regarding the measures against cervical cancers, We have supported the deployment of medical equipment and facilities, offered technical cooperation, or have contributed to international organizations including Gavi Vaccine Alliances, UNFPA, and IAPPF, among others, and such endeavors will continue going forward. We will cooperate with you closely in order to bring together the technologies and networks of the Quad to raise the effects of our measures against cancers even further.
An Australian Prime Minister said that HPV vaccines were manufactured by Australia and is on track to become first country to eliminate the cervical cancer.
Is expanding our funding commitment. The expansion will use Australian cervical cancer expertise to help more partner governments get HPV vaccine programs up and running across the region. This will also increase screening and treatment and provide support for health workers. It will build on what we've learnt in the Western Highlands of Papua New Guinea and Vanuatu and make it available to Malaysia, Timor-Leste, the Solomons, Tuvalu, Fiji and Nauru as well.
And India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his Australian counterpart Anthony Albanese held bilateral talks on the sidelines of the Quad summit in Delaware. Leaders held talks on several regional and global issues. And India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi met US President Joe Biden on the margins of the Quad summit. Prime Minister Modi was welcomed by Biden at his residence and both the leaders shared a warm gesture. Prime Minister conveyed his appreciation for the unparalleled contributions made by President Biden in giving impetus to the India-US partnership. Both the leaders had discussions focusing on ways to further deepen the bilateral partnership in areas of mutual interest. Leaders exchanged views on global and regional issues, including the Indo-Pacific region and beyond. Leaving the Biden's residence following the talks, both leaders expressed confidence in the strength and continuing resilience of the relationship. Sharing pictures on X, Prime Minister Modi thanked Biden for hosting him at his residence in Greenville in Delaware. He termed the talks as extremely fruitful as both the leaders had an opportunity to discuss regional and global issues during the meeting. Sharing an emotional post on social media platform X, Biden wrote that each time they sit down, he's struck by their ability to find new areas of cooperation and that today was no different. Well, upon his arrival at the Philadelphia airport, Prime Minister Narendra Modi was received a warm welcome by the Indian diaspora. DD India's Amritpal Singh spoke to members of the diaspora.
As Prime Minister Narendra Modi arrived in the US for a 3-day visit, his first stop was Wilmington in Delaware. I'm right now in Wilmington. He was, received by the Indian community with a lot of enthusiasm. I have members of the Indian community. Sir, what is the sort of excitement amongst the Indian diaspora here on arrival of Prime Minister?
Oh, this is an unbelievable event for us in Delaware, and all of us are truly experiencing a very magical event, something that was unthinkable several years ago. Thanks to President Biden for inviting Modi ji to Delaware, which is a very small state. However, does hold a lot of sway because of Biden's presidency. So thanks to that presidency for having us experience this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, which I didn't think will ever happen. So truly a magical day for all of the Indians in Delaware and all of the Indian diaspora here in Delaware.
Okay. How have things changed? You know, we've seen for the Indian diaspora when you've been in the U.S., living in the U.S. for a long time. Do you, as in part of the diaspora, have things changed for you?
Things have changed a lot. So I think 25 years ago, India was not really on the map. Not many people knew about where this country is and whatever, you know. But now, with the growing population of Indians in the US, I think people are getting noticed, and they are kind of, we get to interact and socialize a lot more with the local communities over here.
And I think Modi ji has brought India to the forefront. He has showed that India is the best in terms of technology, healthcare, you name it. Yep. And he has put India on the map, and that makes all of us very important here. And it makes us feel very proud that India is again back on the forefront.
As Madam was saying that, he's put India on the world map. Indians were always very hardworking people, both either in the technology sector or even blue-collar workers. But with the rising stature of the country, do you think that directly affects how the world sees you, the Indian diaspora?
Yes, definitely. India has elevated all of us, even though we are not Indians outside living in the country, we are elevated to the highest level. And we see that we are witnessing the golden age of India that we thought we read in history books during Gupta dynasty. Now it's happening again during Modi's administration, and we are very, very happy, excited, thankful that this is happening during our lifetime.
So you can see the sort of excitement and enthusiasm in the Indian diaspora here. The Prime Minister, though, interacted very briefly with them as he begins his official program, bilateral meetings with President Biden, with Prime Minister Fumio Kishida and Anthony Albanese, and after that the Quad Leaders Summit. But the interaction with the Indian community and the diaspora does leave them with a sense of ownership as the Prime Minister adds a personal touch. With cameraman Praveen Johar, this is Amritpal Singh for DD India in Wilmington, Delaware.
Well, Prime Minister Modi will address the Summit of the Future at the United Nations on 23rd of September. DD India's Amritpal Singh reports from the UN headquarters.
The apex global body, which has often been criticized for failing humanity to address its current problems. The UN is now staging a summit of the future, which has an ambitious agenda to find solutions to the emerging problems, the solutions to problems which may affect humanity in the near future, to evolve a global consensus, a pact for future which solves humanity's problems. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be addressing world leaders on Monday at the Summit of the Future, making a strong case for keeping international commitments on sustainable development, financing for the developing countries, and transforming the global governance architecture to make it more effective and equitable. But the big question is, will world leaders be able to keep their differences aside and find solutions to the problems of the world? But despite the cynicism, it is a welcome step by the UN because, as the Mahatma once said, the future depends on what you do today. With cameraman Sumit Naudyal, this is Amritpal Singh for DD India at the UN headquarters in New York.
And DD India's Amritpal Singh also caught up with 6-year-old Ranvir Singh SAA from India. Yes, you heard that right. At 6 years old, Ranvir Singh SAA is the youngest participant at the Summit of the Future. Take a listen.
As the United Nations holds the Summit of the Future here at the UN headquarters, one of the pillars of the summit is science and technology and innovation, where the UN will try and achieve a global digital compact to use technology for humanity equitably, to have youth participate in it. I have with me one kid who's not even a youth, he's just a 6-year-old child, Ranvir SAA, who's traveled all the way from Delhi here in New York to participate in the Summit of the Future. He's written a book on AI. Ranvir, thank you very much for speaking to us. First of all, tell us, why are you here?
So I'm here traveling from India to, and I'm the world's youngest participant in the Summit of the Future, which is a part of the UN General Assembly. It mainly targets on how youth can impact the AI world for world peace. So I'm here to attend the Summit of the Future.
Okay. You're not even youth technically, you are just a child right now, a 6-year-old child. What grade do you study in?
I'm studying in third grade.
Okay. So how do you think as a child AI affects you or the other children of the world?
So AI affects us in many different ways.
Okay.
I've always said that our generation is born with AI because AI is all around us. We ask Alexa, right from your conversation with Alexa and Siri, to YouTube and Netflix suggesting you more songs and videos you like to watch. It's all AI.
Okay. And I understand you've written a book. What is the name of the book?
Are you born with AI?
Okay. And you say you are born with AI?
Yeah. Because, it's all around us.
Okay, great. So as Ranvir Singh says, AI is all around us, but more importantly, he's here as the youngest participant here in the Summit of the Future. Well, if this is the future, then it looks bright. With cameraman Sumit Naudyal, this is Amritpal Singh for DD India at the UN headquarters in New York.
And DD India's Shubhendu Ghosh visits the New York University campus to find out what young people expect from the summit and what they feel about emerging technologies.
Summit of the Future is taking place at the United Nations in New York. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be addressing this summit. I have with me what looks like a bright future. Well, I'm talking about young students, Indian and American, at the prestigious New York University. And this red building that you see behind us, this imposing structure, is the Bob's Library, an iconic structure that is center of the academic and intellectual life of the students here. I have with me Alvina and her friends who are here to talk with us. Alvina, first, not very far from here at the United Nations headquarters, Summit of the Future is going to be deliberating on sustainable tomorrow. What are your thoughts on what this summit is going to be deliberating on, and what kind of action-oriented agenda would you like to see?
I would say, obviously, we, the millennials or the Gen Z, are really looking forward to leave a better planet for our next generations. And what we would hope is, obviously, all the global leaders and all the stakeholders to take some actionable insights to make sure that we are moving towards a more sustainable future for us.
In response to your question, I think the summit does bring a lot of hope for the future. In the past, a lot of summits that have occurred, I feel like, have not really achieved the goals that they have set. I'm hoping that this will be more action-driven and really will solve all the problems that they have identified in previous summits.
All right.
Hi, I think the summit is mainly focusing on tackling the environmental issues, which is actually the need of the hour, because India has been progressing in every other domain, especially under the current government.
All right. Another aspect of the Summit of the Future is the manner in which new emerging technologies are going to be looked at, are going to be adapted by different nations. AI is something that has been making a lot of buzz around the world.
As you talked about AI, so AI is one of the fastest growing technologies right now. And with the growth of AI, the growth of semiconductor industries has been massive. And with the recent success of the Semicon meeting in India, where everyone around the world came to India to promote the semiconductor industry and lead to the growth of AI, I'm pretty hopeful about it.
As an AI architect myself, I've seen that AI plays a really big role in a lot of industries, healthcare, any type of engineering, AI plays a big role. So, as the name suggests, Summit of the Future, and it gives us a glimpse of the future.
I strongly feel that technological advancement is a value that is shared by both India and the United States. And Prime Minister in his speeches also mentions about sustainable development, technological advancement, and talks about Viksit Bharat.
All right, these were young, bright students, Indian and American, at the New York University, talking about the Summit of the Future and the potential of India-United States ties. With camera person Sumit Naudyal, Shubhendu Ghosh for DD India in New York.
And DD India, Shubhendu Ghosh also spoke to India's permanent representative to the United Nations, P Harish, about the agenda of the Summit of the Future, India's priorities and long-pending UN reforms.
The United Nations is hosting the Summit of the Future in New York. World leaders are gathering here in order to realign their strategies for a sustainable future. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi will also be addressing this gathering. I have with me Ambassador P Harish, India's permanent representative at the United Nations, to talk about it. So welcome to DD India. First, if you could take us through the significance of the Summit of the Future and what is high on agenda.
Let me begin by quoting the Secretary General, who said, "We cannot leave a multilateral system represented in the United Nations for our grandchildren, a system that was designed by our grandfathers." This is the starting point that has led to this summit. After 2 years of the pandemic and 2 years of crisis and wars, there is a sense of despondency that the multilateral system and the development goals that we have set for ourselves are not functioning. We don't have a system that is fit for purpose. With this in view, the focus has been, what can we do to reboot the multilateral system, to make it fit for purpose to deliver development to the world's majority. I think with this in mind, the Summit of the Future process had begun, and India actively participated along with all other nations in this process. What can we do to achieve sustainable development goals? Have an SDG stimulus so that we can try to reach our Agenda 2030 objectives. What is it we can do more to contribute to achieving our goals on climate change? What is it that we could do in the digital arena to leapfrog development and give a leg up to countries in the global south so that they can cover the distance that they could not all these years? What more we can do to transforming global governance, to ensuring that the institutions are fit for purpose for this new era? And most importantly, it is about the youth of the world. This is about the future. It is their future. What is it that we can do to make youth the centerpiece of our development focus and of our strategy?
Right. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is going to be addressing the summit as well. There is a lot of anticipation on learning about India's vision for a sustainable tomorrow and the manner in which the priorities of the global south are likely to take center stage.
I think we eagerly look forward to Honorable Prime Minister's visit and his message. India is an essential nation in the global system. It is a vital ingredient, the secret sauce for a harmonious world because of our approach. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. The whole world is our family. It is with this philosophy that we approach. When India is able to provide all the necessities for its people, when India is able to harness science and technology, digital platforms and digital public goods for 1.4 billion people, when India is able to ensure food security, energy security, and develop new paradigms of development, and be a model and make these available to our friends and partners in the global south, I think that makes a huge impact. And that is the true importance of India. And when Prime Minister comes, I think his message would be the example that he has set India on this development process, how we have been able to ensure in the last few years the growth of digital platforms and digital public goods, the huge impetus given to ensuring basic necessities are made available to the vast majority of our citizens, and the way in which we have harnessed technology, not just in space and going to the far side of the moon, but in ensuring that we are able to leverage that for making a difference in the day-to-day lives of our citizens. I think that is what the global south and our friends and partners in the developing world look to us for. And Honorable Prime Minister's address in this regard will be a great inspiration.
Right, sir. You talk about the central.
All right, and after holding successful Quad Summit, Prime Minister Narendra Modi left the venue. He'll be now visiting New York today, where PM Modi will address a community event with the Indian diaspora and participate in a business roundtable with top US CEOs. Prime Minister there sharing a warm hug with President Biden before leaving for New York. Well, after holding the successful Quad summit, Prime Minister Modi is leaving the venue. He'll be visiting New York today, where Prime Minister Modi will address a community event with the Indian diaspora and participate in a business roundtable with the top US CEOs. And still to come in DD India News Hour. US citizens begin casting their first in-person votes for presidential election. Thousands of protesters march in Tel Aviv demanding hostage deal. And India sends humanitarian aid to St Vincent and the Grenadines.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. And moving on, former US President and Republican nominee Donald Trump has ruled out another debate with Democratic rival Vice President Kamala Harris ahead of the November 5th presidential election. This came hours after Harris' campaign said she had agreed to an October 23rd matchup with her Republican rival on CNN. Trump said that it was too late for a debate as voting had already started. The two leaders had their first debate earlier this month.
With another debate is that it's just too late. Voting has already started. She's had her chance to do it with Fox. You know, Fox invited us on, and I waited, and they turned it down. But now she wants to do a debate right before the election with CNN because she's losing badly.
And US citizens began casting their first in-person votes on Friday in a presidential election less than 7 weeks away. The Democratic Party supporters in the Midwestern state of Minnesota were out early to make sure their voice was counted. Voters in Minnesota, South Dakota and Virginia can now go to the polls in person, while Minnesota and South Dakota voters can also mail in their ballots. Minnesota is the home state of Democratic vice presidential candidate Tim Walz. And the election board in the U.S. state of Georgia has ordered its counties to hand count the votes in the U.S. presidential race. Georgia's elections board voted 3-2 to require the hand count, despite the objections of state officials and poll workers. The move is favored by right-wing officials in the battleground state who claim that the rule will prevent miscounts. While hand counting of ballots is common in many countries, including the UK, it is extremely rare in the US. The rule passed on Friday requires 3 election workers in each of the state's 6,500 voting precincts to begin counting ballots on election night. And in Sri Lanka, counting of votes is underway as NPP leader Anurakumara Dissanayake has taken a huge lead over other candidates in the postal ballots. The leftist leader has secured over 50% postal votes in 20 out of 22 electoral districts. According to officials, polling for presidential elections concluded with a turnout of around 75%. The voting remained largely peaceful with stray incidents of election violations. Meanwhile, the incumbent president had imposed an island-wide curfew from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Sunday morning as a precautionary measure. The Election Commission has said that efforts will be made to announce the final results later today. Meanwhile, Sri Lanka's Foreign Minister Ali Sabri extended his congratulations to Dissanayake. Taking to X, Sabri, who supported independent candidate President Ranil Wickremesinghe, expressed hope that Disanayake's leadership would bring Sri Lanka the peace, prosperity and stability it deeply deserves. And some updates on Israel-Hamas conflict now. Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant carried out a situation assessment on Saturday alongside Military Chief Herzi Halevi and other senior defense officials after gathering restrictions on residents of areas in northern Israel were imposed. The situation assessment came ahead of anticipated retaliation for an Israeli strike on Hezbollah commanders in Lebanon on Friday. And more Israeli strikes at southern Lebanon on Saturday evening, continuing some of the heaviest bombardment in 11 months of fighting. The Israeli military said it had been striking extensively in southern Lebanon after detecting plans by Hezbollah to strike Israeli communities. The strikes came after an Israeli airstrike targeting Hezbollah commanders the previous day killed at least 37 people in a suburb of the Lebanese capital, according to the authorities.
In the past hour, we have been striking extensively in southern Lebanon following detection of Hezbollah preparing to fire toward Israeli territory. Dozens of Israeli Air Force aircraft are currently striking terrorist targets and rocket launchers to remove the threat to Israeli civilians.
Meanwhile, Israelis converged on the streets of Tel Aviv on Saturday to urge Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to refocus on securing the release of hostages from Gaza rather than trading blows with Hezbollah terrorists in Lebanon. Following many similar demonstrations since the conflict in Gaza began on 7th of October, protesters voiced anger and frustration that the remaining hostages were yet to be freed since being taken captive almost a year ago. And the United Nations Security Council met on Friday over the pager blast in Lebanon that targeted Hezbollah. It denounced the detonation of handheld communication devices used by Hezbollah operatives in Lebanon, saying that the attack violated international law and could constitute a war crime. UN High Commissioner for Human Rights Volker Turk asked for an investigation in the circumstances of the explosions. He said that international humanitarian law prohibits the use of booby-trap devices in the form of apparently harmless portable objects.
International humanitarian law prohibits the use of booby-trap devices in the form of apparently harmless portable objects which are specifically designed and constructed to contain explosive material. It is a war crime to commit violence intended to spread terror among civilians. I call again for an independent, thorough, and transparent investigation into the circumstances of these explosions. Those who ordered and carried out these attacks must be held to account.
Well, Iran unveiled a new ballistic missile and upgraded one-way attack drone at a military parade amid soaring regional tensions and allegations of arming Russia. Its new president, Masoud Pezeshkian, attended an annual parade in Tehran commemorating the 1980-1988 war with Saddam Hussein's Iraq. Meanwhile, U.S. President Joe Biden expressed hope for a Gaza ceasefire, insisting that reaching a deal remains realistic. Addressing reporters on Friday, Biden emphasized the need for perseverance, saying we have to keep at it. He highlighted the importance of restoring peace along Israel's northern and Lebanon's southern borders.
Continuing to try to do what we tried from the beginning, to make sure that both the people in northern Israel as well as southern Lebanon are able to go back to their homes and go back safely. And the Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense, our whole team is working in the intelligence community to try to get that done. We're going to keep at it till we get it done, but we've got a way to go.
Well, President Joe Biden said on Saturday that China continues to behave aggressively in the South China Sea and Taiwan Strait, and President Xi Jinping is using diplomacy to advance his country's interest. The comments came as Biden opened a farewell summit in Delaware with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida and Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese. Biden said that while Chinese President Xi Jinping was focusing on domestic economic challenges, he was also looking to buy himself some diplomatic space to aggressively pursue China's interest.
Xi Jinping is looking to focus on domestic economic challenges and minimize the turbulence in China diplomatic relationships, and he's also looking to buy himself some diplomatic space, in my view, to aggressively pursue China's interest. China continues to behave aggressively, testing us all across the region. And it's true in the South China Sea, the East China Sea, South Asia, and the Taiwan Straits. It's true across the scope of our relationship, including on economic and technology issues.
Well, Ukraine's Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha said on Saturday that Russia is planning strikes on Ukrainian nuclear facilities before the winter. He urged the UN's nuclear watchdog and Ukraine's allies to establish permanent monitoring missions at the country's nuclear plants. Taking to social media X, the foreign minister said, and I quote, "According to Ukrainian intelligence, the Kremlin is preparing strikes on Ukrainian nuclear energy critical objects ahead of winter. In particular, it concerns open distribution devices at nuclear power plants and transmission substations critical for the safe operation of nuclear energy." Well, there was no immediate comment from Moscow or the UN's nuclear watchdog, the International Atomic Energy Agency. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President's chief of staff called for a swift global response to the purported threat of a strike on a nuclear facility. And moving on, thousands of supporters of Pakistan's jailed former Prime Minister Imran Khan held a rally demanding his immediate release. PTI workers slammed the government for its crackdown on the party, pelted stones at police, injuring many security personnel. This was the first rally by the PTI that was allowed to be held after the May 9th, 2023 incidents in which the party supporters allegedly attacked military installations in the wake of Khan's arrest. Khan was arrested on August 5th last year after his conviction in the Toshakhana corruption case filed by the Election Commission of Pakistan. Since then, he has been in jail in different cases. Khan says the cases against him are politically motivated, which the military has denied. And French President Emmanuel Macron named a new government led by Prime Minister Michel Barnier, marked by a shift to the right 11 weeks after the parliamentary election. Antoine Armand will serve as finance minister and Jean-Noël Barrot will become foreign minister in a government composed largely of centrist and conservative parties. Sébastien Lecornu will stay on as defense minister, while Bruno Retailleau will become interior minister. Conservative Prime Minister Barnier put together the government whose first major task will be to submit a 2025 budget plan addressing France's financial situation. Well, the UAE does not plan to resume talks with the US over a multi-billion-dollar deal for F-35 fighter planes, irrespective of who is elected in the White House in November. Earlier reports said that the UAE was planning to resume negotiations to purchase F-35s and armed drones if Donald Trump wins a second presidential term. In late 2021, the UAE suspended talks, unable to agree terms with the Joe Biden administration. If the US approves the deal, UAE will become only the second West Asian nation after Israel to operate F-35s. And in the aftermath of Hurricane Beryl, India on Saturday dispatched the first tranche of humanitarian aid to St Vincent and the Grenadines for rehabilitation of settlements in that country. The 10-tin aid consists of sleeping bags and hygiene products. India's Ministry of External Affairs said that the second tranche of items worth 60 tons will be dispatched via sea. And in weather, record rains in Japan's Noto region killed at least one person on Saturday and prompted evacuation orders for tens of thousands. The rain caused blackouts for more than 6,000 households. 7 people, including 4 working on earthquake reconstruction, went missing. Calls for rescue swamped the fire department. Early rainfall hit record 12.1 centimeters on Saturday morning local time in Wajima, while neighboring Suzu received 8.45 centimeters in an hour, which is also an all-time high. The visuals showed brown flood water turning streets into rivers in Wajima, with cars half submerged. The 7.6 magnitude quake killed more than 300 people in Suzu, Wajima and surrounding areas. And the South American country of Brazil continues to battle wildfires. In the latest, a blaze erupted inside a national park. Last week, nearly 500 firefighters were deployed at the national park to battle another wildfire that had consumed 2,000 hectares of the conservation zone. To combat the disaster, the federal government has agreed to dole out $93.7 million as new measures to tackle the fires. At least 2 people were killed and 14 went missing as floods in southern Morocco swept a bus away. Torrential rains and strong storms in the province of Tata has triggered the country's worst floods in a decade. Earlier this month, floods claimed 18 lives in the country, which is among the world's most water-stressed nations across the world. And now let's take you to US. India's Prime Minister Modi is now emplaning for New York after the successful Quad summit. At the Quad summit, the Prime Minister described the grouping as a force of global good and added that it is here to stay, partner and contribute. Right up on your screens, Prime Minister emplaning for New York after the successful Quad summit on September 22nd. That is today, Prime Minister Modi will address a community event with the Indian diaspora in New York and participate in a business roundtable with top US CEOs from sectors such as artificial intelligence, quantum computing and biotechnology. The mega event, Modi and US, will be held at the Nassau Veterans Coliseum in Uniondale in New York. The mega event, Modi and US, has garnered widespread interest from across the country and across the globe. Prime Minister Modi emplaning for New York after the successful Quad summit. And tomorrow, that is on the 3rd day of his visit, Prime Minister Modi will be attending the Summit of the Future. And moving on, World Rhino Day is being celebrated today. It is the day of awareness for all 5 rhino species and the work being done to save them. Since 2011, World Rhino Day has been celebrated internationally on September 22nd by rhino experts and advocates around the world. On World Rhino Day, the International Rhino Foundation celebrates the 5 species rhinos and all those who care about them. With all 5 species combined, there are just under 28,000 rhinos left in the world. And moving on International Coastal Cleanup Day 2024, the Indian Coast Guard's regional headquarters for the Northeast took proactive steps to raise awareness about the importance of preserving coastal ecosystems. In Kolkata, officers and volunteers conducted educational drives in various schools and colleges, emphasizing the need to protect marine environments and reduce pollution. These sessions aimed to instill a sense of responsibility in students towards marine conservation and sustainable practices. The ICG also organized a tree plantation drive at Maniktala, where participants from local communities along with Coast Guard personnel planted saplings to promote urban greenery and environmental protection. Well, you're watching DD India News Hour. Time now for some sports news. Bangladesh needs 357 runs to win the first match of a test series against India at Chennai. At the end of day 3, Bangladesh was 158 for the loss of 4 wickets as early stumps were taken because of bad light. For Bangladesh, Najmul Hossain Shanto remained unbeaten on 51. For India, Ravichandran Ashwin continued his dream form, following up on first innings 100 with figures of 3 for 63. Earlier, Shubman Gill and Rishabh Pant's tons helped India set a target of 515 runs, giving Bangladesh a huge mountain to climb to win the test. India declared a 287 for 4 on day 3. Pant scored 109 runs while Gill slammed 119 runs. Also, Afghanistan won a first ever one-day international series against South Africa thanks to Rashid Khan's brilliant spell and Rasmanullah's Garbaz's stun. After beating South Africa for the first time ever 2 days ago, Afghanistan scripted history by beating South Africa in the second ODI to clinch the series. Afghanistan thrashed South Africa by 177 runs, which is the biggest ODI win for the team in terms of runs. Rahimullah Gurbaz's 105 made him the first Afghan man to hit 7 ODI hundreds. Afghanistan put 311 for 4 on the board, while South Africa got bundled for 134 runs, courtesy of spectacular bowling by Rashid Khan, who took 5 wickets, and Nangre Alia Karote, who bagged 4. Afghanistan will now look to whitewash South Africa and sweep the series clean in the final ODI on Sunday. An Indian men's team defeated the USA by 2.5, 1.5 in the 10th and penultimate round of 2024 Chess Olympiad in Budapest, capital of Hungary. They're close to winning gold medal. Arjun Erigaisi has put India on the brink of winning a historic gold medal in the open section with a victory over USA's Lenia Dominguez Perez in the final match of the 10th round. Erigaisi and Gukesh continued their stellar run. Gukesh outclassed world number 2 Fabiano Caruana, while Erigaisi got the better of Perez. Now India leads with 19 points, followed by China and 17 points and Slovenia with 16 points. In women's section, the Indian women's team are back in the contention for gold. They scored a critical 2.5, 1.5 win over China in the 10th round. Divya Deshmukh once again struck for India. Divya scored a wonderful win, while all 3 games ended with a draw. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Pakshi Kurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.